this December 7th through 9th. Check out the EdUp Experience podcast live and in person in Doha, Qatar for the World Innovation Summit on Education. We will be documenting the ideas and innovations from today's most influential global education leaders. Check them out at wise-qatar.org and follow the EdUp Experience podcast for more information. Yay! Guys, this is Joe just popping in to ask if you've signed up for your free marketing consultation with MDT Marketing yet. If you haven't, head to mdtmarketing.com/edup, submit your information, get your free consultation today. Don't do it alone. Find the right partner. Welcome back, everybody. It's your time to EdUp on the EdUp Experience podcast, where we make education your business. Dr. Joe Salustio here with you again today by myself, which is a recent, it's moving away from a recent phenomenon where I've had guest hosts on pretty much every episode over the last, 20 or 30 episodes, which has been really interesting, having different higher ed presidents and deans and faculty members come on as my co-hosts because they all bring a different perspective. So I guess I've got to pick it up myself today. Lucky for me, my guest is exuding energy as we speak right now. He just looks like he's going to explode with energy. If that wasn't a setup for you, I don't know what is. So he's going to talk to me after this episode, I'm sure. But here he is, ladies and gentlemen. Let me get him ready for you. He looks ready. Here he is. Dr. John Weispfenning. He's Chancellor of Coast Community College District. John, what's happening?
Thank you, Joe. You're setting a high bar for me to try to jump over this afternoon, but thanks. It's great to be here. Great to have this chance to talk about the Coast District and the things we're doing here at Coast and how we're trying to move the bar forward for community colleges.
All right, so for those people that aren't familiar with the geography of California, talk about where you are, where the community college district is located, what universities and colleges do you oversee as the chancellor, and and where you are, like how close to the water you are for all the people that will need to know that.
I have one of the best districts anywhere in the country. Coast Community College District is located in Orange County, California. Orange County, for those of you not from California, is located between Los Angeles and San Diego, so we're right on the coast. And my district is on the coast. We're located and cover the cities of Huntington Beach, Costa Mesa, Newport Beach, Garden Grove, Westminster. So not only are we on the coast, I actually have facilities that are on the Newport Beach Harbor. So if the day gets a little bit too heavy, I can go down to the waterfront and stare at the water.
Balboa Pier down there. It's beautiful. I for the audience members that listen to this, thousands of you out there. I live in Ontario, California, or the Chino Hills area. I've lived, and so it's about on a Saturday or Sunday morning, I take my kids out to Newport Beach. About 35 minutes if you go early enough, an hour and 35 minutes if you leave late enough, and take my kids down there. It's a beautiful area, which says to me that there should be a lot of interest in students coming to your district and your community colleges because, first of all, it's highly populated in that area. And second of all, it's almost a destination experience for a community college, which I would say there are a lot of community colleges that aren't destination experiences. They're rural. You wouldn't think it's a destination. But if you're in Huntington Beach, you're in Newport Beach, you have people coming from all over the world as tourists to visit there. To be in college, there has to be some kind of unique experience, John.
It really is. And we've got 3 colleges here in the district. We've got Orange Coast College, which is located here in Costa Mesa. That's our flagship, started in 1947. The largest of our colleges right now with about 20,000 FTEs. And then we've got Golden West College in Huntington Beach, started in 1967. As an offshoot of Orange Coast, and they've got about 12,000 FTEs. And then we've got Coastline, which is our most recent college, which really started in the mid-'80s as a college without walls, and it's largely online. We do have a couple of facilities located in Orange County where we offer different things, but mostly it's an online college, and started offering correspondence courses through public television. So really trying to be innovative with Coastline. But the 3 colleges together really give us reach and depth. And you're right about this being a destination place. And we see it a lot with not just students from out of state California, but we have a lot of students who come to our district bypassing other community colleges that are closer to where they live, and they're coming to school here. We do attract a fair number of students from Arizona and other neighboring states, and we've also had some pretty good recent success attracting international students as well. And to help us on that front, we actually opened up a residence hall at Orange Coast College a little over a year ago. And let me just tell any presidents who are listening, do not open a residence hall in the middle of a pandemic. There are better ways to spend your money.
Wow.
But after a year, we're fully occupied and it's moving forward and doing well. But we wanted to make sure that we had a residential experience for those students who come here from other parts of the country, other parts of the world, as well as students in Orange County who are looking for the community college experience, but they also want a residential experience. And we're able to do that now because of the harbor, which was a private-public partnership. We've made that possible. It's working out very well for us.
Amazing.
Pretty incredible what you have going on. And I want to ask, because you said you've got 20,000, 12,000, and then you have Coastline, which is your college built without borders.
Right.
Did you see shifts? Did students during the pandemic, did you see more of a shift towards Coastline away from the other two institutions, or was it really, did those shifts not exist? Because I do know, obviously, being in California myself, it was, return, don't return. Orange County in particular, because of the politics in the area, it was, we're not going to listen, or we are going to listen. And then the governor comes and says, you better listen. Oh, wait, nobody's going to. It was very confusing for us Californians, as it were. How did that affect students? And did you see a migration towards online?
We had a migration toward online. It was really forced. When the pandemic hit in March, we declared a state of emergency in the district, and it was right before spring break. So we called off classes for a week, and then spring break was after that. And we announced that after that, we would have everything online. And so we went into this massive pivot where our faculty were forced to take their classes. Many were using Canvas already as a course shell to support what was happening face-to-face, but they had to go fully online. And it happened in 2 weeks, and it happened across the board, and the faculty did this heroic effort to make that shift. And so that was the spring semester of 2020. And we were hoping that, after a couple of months, we'd be able to come back and have people back face-to-face. Well, that clearly didn't work out. This current semester, fall 2021, we're about 35% district-wide face-to-face or some face-to-face component in the classes. We're still mostly online.
Wow.
So our students didn't so much switch to a different campus or college. They really just found their modality shifting. And where we've been able to come back first in our face-to-face was our CTE classes, the career technical education, because those were really the hardest to convert long-term, because they depend so heavily on the hands-on learning that, how do you teach construction virtually?
Yeah, auto mechanic, right?
You need to be moving 2x4s. You just have to do it. Yeah. And so as soon as we could get those students back safely, we did that.
It's interesting how when faced with adversity, because one of the knocks on higher ed, as you know, is that we're slow. People look, everybody I've ever met in any industry, when I say work in higher ed, they go, oh yeah, you must deal with all this bureaucracy. And most of the time that's true. Sometimes that is true. Sometimes higher ed shows what I would say our true historical self to be very slow. And then when faced with adversity, you see this ingenuity and innovation explode from, in particular, from faculty who had to really, across every president I've talked to, has really commended their faculty. And that's important to note, because without the faculty moving so quickly, the students don't get taught. And it's just that, you're in a limbo. So that's one great thing that comes out of the pandemic. But then the question becomes, what's next? We moved, we innovated. Some people are online, some people are on ground. We've made changes. Do we go backwards to what we had before? Or do we stand in a status quo? How do we move forward? There might be new technologies, new modalities. You might have had to change curriculum. All these things happen. How do you imagine, as the chancellor of a institution district, how do you set the vision for what happens in the next 18 months or the next 28 months and so on?
We've approached it from a standpoint of student and employee safety. That's number one right now. So we've been fairly deliberate and cautious with returning people to campus. Our classified staff and administrators are now working 3 days a week on site and the other 2 days off site. And we actually started over the summer with bringing people back 1 day a week. And so we've been just kind of
weaning them in,
ramping up.
Yeah, weaning them in. Yeah.
And with the Delta variant, when that popped up late in the summer, we said, we're gonna pause this. We're not going to accelerate at the speed we thought we were going to, because the original plan was by this point in time, we thought we'd be fully back, fully staffed, ready to get set for the spring semester. But we're going a little more slowly than that. Our faculty are indicating they're a little reluctant to come back fully as well. And I understand that. I mean, this is still a dangerous situation. So, we've got some protocols in place, and we could talk about that a bit, but we're taking it cautiously. I don't want to put people in a position where they feel completely uncomfortable. We're trying to ease people back, let them see that it's reasonably safe, that we've got precautions in place, and that they're okay to come back and be in the classroom or be in the office and have students around them. And so far, we've been pretty successful with that. So I think slow and cautious makes sense on the return, although we didn't have that option when we went out.
Yeah. One of the things that came up the other day on LinkedIn, I was on LinkedIn, and one of the heads of media of LinkedIn put out a post about working from home and return to office, and how rigid policies by some employers are contributing to what is being called the Great Resignation. You kind of look at that in a niche in higher education, and that also can be the case. And I've seen it, and have colleagues that go, I'm not doing it. I'm just going to go work somewhere else. And you as a leader, I just wonder, at my own institution, my president and myself, we sat down, we said, okay, what do we do? How do we reimagine what the future work is going to look like? What if somebody says, I don't want to come back? Are we willing to lose this person? If we just say, you got to be back 5 days a week, and they go, what does that do to the students? What does that do to the institution? How do you think about that? How often are you thinking about that and what the future looks like from how we work from now on?
Almost all of, my life for the last 20 months has been COVID and the after effects. So that's just what we're working on right now. The actual nuts and bolts of education, that's a tomorrow problem, which I hate to say, but it's the reality of where we're at. I read an article in the New York Times probably about 6 months ago, and they were talking about, as you think about people doing remote work long term, the key is, can you measure the performance if the person is working remotely? Right. And that's a key question, because we don't really deal with that. I mean, we do performance evaluations, right? But we really count, is the person at their desk 8 hours a day? Is the faculty member meeting with the class, and we do student surveys? But do we really measure what's being done? And it got me thinking that if we're going to approve people to do remote work regularly or fully, it needs to be a position that can be done remotely, first of all. And then second of all, do we have metrics in place to measure the performance? 100%. And so as I'm working with our HR department, that's kind of the baseline we've set, is, can we measure the performance of the job? And if we can, then we can look at doing this. But there are some jobs that they just have to be on campus. And if the person doesn't want to come back, we're going to have to figure that out. Yeah.
I think that's a great starting point, right? Can it be done online? And if the answer is yes, then you can say, okay, step two, what do we have in place? What technology is in place? As I talked through this issue and this came up, and we were talking about what jobs can be done online, which can't. And I said, this job, we had someone in the building in our building, they were doing a job. They weren't doing it at all every day. They were there and they weren't working at all. So what's the difference between not working at all in the office and not working at home? The question is, do you have the accountabilities in place, right? Do you have the technology in place to measure performance? And in some jobs, at least the ones that are easily done online and at home, those consequences are easily visible. And so then it's about making data visible. And so that's a really good point. I like the way you frame that. And then, yeah, if somebody's want to come back and they have to be there, because you're right, there are some jobs that have to be there. If you're, one of the ones that we intersected with is like the person who signs the checks. We kind of feel like they have to be in the office to access the checks. Or we're going to send like a checkbook, or we're going to have all the electronic, checking systems sitting at their house. Like, I don't know about that one. So it's really interesting as you work through it. What about this change of, career change of, are people reframing or rethinking about what they want to do with their lives? And how do you, John, as a leader in 20 months, literally upside down in COVID, working with 3 presidents? You have the president in each campus?
3, yeah.
Yeah. To work through this for every student, do you just go, oh my God, I had enough of this damn COVID thing. I want to move forward and be an educator again.
Yeah, I'd be lying if I didn't say that that's a common feeling. But, I was talking we have classified Senate presidents, so our staff have a Senate as well at each campus.
Right.
And I meet with them every month as a group. And it was, I think, last month when one of them said, all doom and gloom. How do you stay motivated? How do we keep our focus? And it was a great question. And it's the kind of thing that, sometimes the great questions are so obvious you never really answer them. But the answer to me is, I think about the students we're serving. Even in the middle of a pandemic, we've got thousands of students who are involved in our campuses, whether it's online or in person. They're working on their classes, they're completing certificates, they're getting their degrees, they're moving on, they're finding jobs. We're connecting with them. We're helping them achieve their life goals. And if you can think about that, it's really hard not to be excited about what we do. So on those days when I'm feeling like I've had it because of COVID, I try to think about the students, because that, for everyone in education, that's the reason we're here. We do it because we want those students to have opportunities and to make more with their lives. And so that's my mantra. When people say, how do we keep our mood up? Hey, think about the students.
If you're experiencing any level of marketing challenge right now, you've got to ask the hard questions and you need answers. Are you using the right mix of channels to get in front of your future students? Is your messaging personalized and delivered in a medium your audience and future students will respond to? And are you spending more time building reporting than listening in on what your students really want? All of these questions will get answered when you sign up for your free consultation with MDT Marketing. Head to mdtmarketing.com/edup, submit your information, and talk to MDT. Don't go it alone. Find the right partner. The guys at MDT, the team at MDT is absolutely amazing. Whether your challenge is the cost of inquiries, your branding, the bad and incomplete information that come with your inquiries, whatever it is, an audit of your challenges will help your institution, and it's free. mdtmarketing.com/edup. Truly, because as bad as we have it, they sometimes have it much worse, especially if they're first gen,
situation.
Low income. I mean, there's this piece of the disappearing student that's existed, particularly in community colleges. We've seen across the board an enrollment decline upwards of 20%, depending on the institution. How have your institutions fared, and how do you work through with your presidents on how you re-engage this lost population that they went to work and now they're not interested in higher ed anymore, or they've disappeared because they have a bad family situation and we got to find them? There's so many things that have popped up because of the consequences of this whole situation.
Yeah, and our district has suffered the same enrollment challenges that are happening nationally and across California. We have not been immune. I wish we were, but we have not been. So as we talk about it, we're up against, and this is not uncommon across the country, we have demographic trends working against us too. Even in Orange County, we have fewer high school graduates every year going all the way out to about 2027 when it begins to stabilize. And so our pool of traditional age students is a little bit smaller. That's one trend that's working against us. The other is that right now in California, the legislature is very concerned about the number of California resident students admitted to the CSUs and the UCs. And so they've been pushing those segments of higher ed to admit more California residents. Well, all the students they're admitting would have otherwise come to community colleges.
Right.
So that and it's not a huge hit, but it's probably, across the systems, 40 or 50,000 students not in community colleges who would otherwise be with us. So we've got that going against us. Then we've got the traditionally strong economy right now with more jobs available for students who want to work than they can shake the stick at. And they can go out and make more money today than they could 2 years ago. So there are a number of trends that are just tough. Then you add to that the national political conversation questioning the value of higher education, which counterintuitively hits those of us at the more affordable segments harder than it hits those in the elite colleges. And that's against us too. So I really think it's a multi-pronged effort, and it's something we need to be a little bit patient about, because we could go out tomorrow and spend $3 million, and I don't know that it would bring us any more students. The trends are working against us right now. So we're trying to be a little patient, trying to stabilize the enrollment at the time being, and then in a couple of years, some of these trends will begin to reverse. The economy will cool.
Yeah, no, keep going. No, keep going.
So the economy is going to cool off. At that point, people, not just traditional age younger students, but non-traditional students, slightly older adults, are going to be more willing to come back and upgrade their skill set. So we're kind of trying to be strategic in timing the approach to get people back. In the meantime, though, there's an important conversation that I and other college presidents and other higher ed leaders need to be having, and that is to reinforce the value of higher education, and in particular, the value of community college education. Because as I said, we've been taking the brunt of that argument, and the students we serve are the ones who benefit the most from coming to college. So we need to start winning that argument, and that means it has to be coordinated across the segments.
Well said. A couple things in there. I hit the applause. I rarely hit the applause button, but you said a couple things that struck a couple chords with me. Number one, when you talk about competing priorities, one to add to that is the non-credit space that is popping up all over. You see it organized with organizations like Grow with Google, Amazon's investment in higher ed. Don't need to go to higher ed, just come to us. You also see it in I call it the everybody and their brother non-credit space, where, hey, I think I'm just going to start an online class and how to wear a T-shirt. And, I'm going to show somebody how to make T-shirts, and they're going to make T-shirts. And it dissuades people from formal education in a way that I think is going to hurt our economy in several years from now. Secondarily to that, you talk about how the students are harder hit at the lower income levels when it comes to questioning the value of college. And I want to drive that point home and have you drive that home, because the family that's sending their kid to Harvard is still going to send their kid to Harvard. That is just going to be the way it is, because their kid was always going to go to Harvard. That's the way it is. But the first gen student that listens to the noise, and a lower income student that listens to the noise around them and decides not to go to college because somebody in their circle says you don't need to go to college, they're affecting their ability to achieve generational wealth, because it won't come as easily without that college degree as it will with that college degree. And that disparity, that further creates disparities in wealth, in gender disparity, and just equity and all. And that is a point that no one has really hammered home. So I'd like you to just hammer it, John, and talk about why that is.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't want to get too far into the politics of this, but I will say that the argument is tailored at those students to dissuade them from seeking higher education with you'll wind up $100,000 in debt. Well, you know what? If you go to a community college and transfer to a state institution, particularly in California, even if you have to borrow to pay for the state portion, the 4-year portion of that, the last 2 years, you can get out with less than $20,000 in debt, far less than $20,000 in debt. By doing a community college for the first 2 years, we can cut the cost of a higher ed in half. And that's just the reality. So, we haven't messaged that well. And the other
who
part
talks about
that?
Who talks about that? Because John, you know it as well as I do. You look at these articles and somebody goes, "Oh, students today, they're borrowing $100,000 a year to go over here," and I'm like, "Who is this? Like, who are they talking about?" Because everybody I'm talking about is trying to look at a lower cost degree. Talk about, and I said this on a previous episode. I always question somebody when they say, well, you have to unbundle higher education. And unbundling was this hot word for a while, and people made their bed in it and talking about unbundling. And I was like, that is what community college is. It's an unbundled education. You don't want to stay in a dorm that a community college has, and you could live at home. You can commute. You want to take one class? You could do that. You don't need a dining hall card. You eat at home. And I'm like, what stratosphere are we living in when it comes to that stuff?
Wall Street. Wall Street loves that, buzzword. And, people make a lot of money with that strategy. But ultimately, what they're doing doesn't add value because we've already done that. As you say, we provide, you want one class, take one. You want 5, take 5. And we'll let you do it for free.
Right.
Our investors are not getting rich. Our investors are the local taxpayers who help support our campus, and the state residents who fund very well a community college system to provide this basic level of education to students. So we're very fortunate to be able to offer that, but there are people who don't like those things.
Yeah.
And actively work to keep the students from taking advantage of them. And, this is another recent example. I was talking to one of our campus recruiters, and he was telling me that one of the high schools, actually most of the high schools in our district, they can't get in to talk to the students until March and April in the spring.
Because the classes aren't open?
The four-year universities are there in the fall.
Right.
But the counselors and principals don't want us going in until the students have already either been accepted to a 4-year school or rejected.
Okay, so that is the systemic problem that gives community colleges a stigma, right? Like, if you don't get into the 4-year, you're going to be the last one picked for dodgeball, and we're going to bring in a community college, and you can go there. That is not what is happening in the U.S. right now, though. I think community colleges are really, once they stabilize the enrollment, the value of a community college education is certainly growing. But that's a systemic issue. That's got to be tough to overcome.
It's a challenge because when I talk to parents, and I'll say, look, we can cut the cost of higher ed in half, and your student will still graduate with that 4-year degree from the same university, and employers will value it exactly the same way.
Yep.
And your student may get a better experience starting with us, because I talk to a lot of students who go to, I'll name drop, Berkeley, Stanford, and they come back and they tell us they got the teaching in our colleges is the same quality as what they're getting there, and they're getting it largely for free. So, with the idea, though, with the high schools, the counselors gain status when their students go straight to Berkeley and Stanford.
There you go.
When they come to us, the community college, they don't gain status. And the principals are the same way. The superintendents actually get it. They're helpful. But it's the principals and the counselors who control access to the schools. So we're working on some strategies to try to address that systemically, because it really is a problem. I don't know, and jokingly, I want to know what the 4-year institutions around me are afraid of, why they won't let us compete for the students.
Well, because it's competition.
We're going to address that.
Yeah, I mean, and good for you. I've never heard anybody talk about that before. I mean, we've had a lot of presidents on. Nobody's talked about the high school component, and there is a built-in status piece. You see, even with parents, it's like, oh, my kid goes here, my kid goes there, and it's like, really, no employer is going to go, show me the piece of paper. They want to see that you have the degree. That's it. It's very rare that an employer will screen you from where you attended, unless you're maybe on Wall Street, but
Sure.
That's not the majority
but
of America.
Even there, if you graduate from Stanford, they're not going to skip you over because you started at Orange Coast.
Right.
Right? You've got the Stanford degree, and that's what counts.
I love that. Love that, John. So what do we need to say about Coastline, Golden West, and Orange Coast that we haven't talked about? Anything that you want to say about the institutions? Anything you want to say about the district? Your chance to plug whatever you want to say about your colleges.
We've got three amazing colleges, each and every one of them, and each one is different. And sometimes that makes it a little challenging for me because we want to try to treat our people and students the same when on the ground. It can be very different. But it's an amazing district. I mean, the resources we have here are truly incredible. We've got a waterfront campus that Orange Coast has down at Newport Beach, which we mentioned earlier. We teach sailing there. We have a mariner program to teach people how to drive the big boats in the harbor. We've got an amazing simulator that's set up. We have aviation pilot training, aviation maintenance, helicopter maintenance. We teach nursing, criminal justice, policing, all of this, automotive tech, plus the full range of transfer for a 4-year liberal arts degree. Anything you want, we can give. And the resources we have in this district, when I go across the street to Orange Coast, my background originally in higher ed was at 4-year universities, both public and private. And I've got better facilities than the majority of 4-year universities in this country. I mean, it is an amazing district.
Yeah,
and
if you look at
I'm
online,
so proud to be the leader of this district.
Yeah, if you look online
Great
if you go to, what's the website for your district? cccd.edu. So 3 C's and a D.edu. And you can see the different colleges. And but before I move on to our final question, how important is messaging, John? Messaging to get students back, to recruit new students? Because I'll tell you for sure, back in the day, if I could have seen that it's cooler at the coast at Orange Coast College, I might have just gone there. Messaging is important. And the other one, what's this one? Coastline. And it's a picture you get there on the website, and it's a picture of the beach, right? That is saying something about where you're going to go and what you're going to experience. How important is that to your future, the messaging?
The branding of the colleges is key. And if you can't give people a reason why you are different, it's hard to win, right? And in California, where we have 117 community colleges, and they all offer, it's all ice cream, maybe slightly different flavors, but it's all ice cream. How do you differentiate? And for us, we're so fortunate to have that geographic advantage. And so, that's a big part of our branding.
I can't believe I don't have a sound effect of an ocean wave right now. I'm so disappointed in myself, John. I can't believe I failed on that, but it is important. And it says right when you get to these websites of your district, it says, like, it makes you want to be there. It makes me want to be there, and I'm not too far away. Maybe I'll have to come back and take some courses or something.
Yeah, I'd love to have you. We could use the enrollment.
You're buying the coffee when I get there. John, what does the future of higher education look like? This is our final question for you. Take us out.
I believe firmly that things change slowly until they change quickly. And COVID has really been an inflection point for higher ed. And we're not going back to what we were before. My colleges before, even with Coastline being mostly online, we were probably around 85% face-to-face. And I don't think we'll ever do that again. We'll probably be in the upper 70s at some point. It'll take us a while to get back there. But students have found that they want some online, even students who want to be on site, find it convenient to take 1 or 2 classes online. And that's just going to continue. And we have to continue to adapt to do that. And that makes it really easy for students to take a class from this college, a class from this college, and a class from this college. We have to get better about how to work that. And that's going to require a lot of change from all of us. Flexibility is going to be the key. We're probably going to see more contingent labor, administrators and faculty. And that's not necessarily a good thing, so I'm not promoting it, but I think that's just the reality, that a college may want to offer a program, but they can't afford the full-time faculty member, so they hire somebody to teach a couple classes a year. And, we've been doing it as part-time, but it'll be slightly more stable than a contract for the semester, but it's still not going to be full-time employment. Students are going to be more mobile, and they're going to be more critical, and we're going to have to learn to deal with that. I think the future of higher ed is the same but different. What we do in terms of critical thinking, what we offer to students will be the same, but how we offer is going to change.
Love that. I think your point. I think about what's a potential student doing right now, and I was I don't remember where I was over the weekend with my kids, and I was sitting next to a girl. She must have been in her early 20s, and for 45 minutes she sat on TikTok just looking at different videos. And I said, "What?" So I could watch a movie, and I guess I'm old because I can watch a movie and not swipe, and she wouldn't have. I mean, it was just bam, 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 bam. And I thought, man, learning just has to get fast, to deliver it fast to a brain of a Gen Z student that just moves at 10, 15-second intervals. How do you build something for that? But to your point, it's the same quality, but different, right? How do we deliver it differently? I think that's really well said.
That's our challenge, and it's a big one.
It is. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. His name is Dr. John Weispfenning. He's Chancellor of Coast Community College District, and he's been my willing guest today. I will go back and add in an ocean sound effect. I really will for this episode, John. It was an absolute pleasure and an honor to talk with you today, my friend. I hope you had a good experience.
I did. Thank you, Joe. This was great. I enjoyed it very much.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. You've just EdUp'd. Are you using the right mix of channels to get in front of your audience? Is your messaging personalized and delivered in a medium your audience responds to? Are you spending more time building reports than listening in on what your audience wants? These are not easy questions to answer. That's why our great friends at MDT Marketing are offering a free audit of your marketing efforts. Head to www.mdtmarketing.com/edup and submit your information for your free consultation today. Look, guys, you got nothing to lose. It's free. I don't know why you wouldn't want a free audit to tell you what you're doing, whether it's effective, and how you can make some incremental changes that can make a big difference moving forward. That's www.mdtmarketing.com/edup.